So here we are, October 1st. So looking at the transom above the and around the exhaust. This is after grinding the skin off. You can see the not just wet but moldy balsa all around there. So here we are with the balsa removed, and you can see how even the inner skin has been stained and discolored. Uh, Here's the balsa bits that came out of this area, and you can see some of them are just black. It was this. This is the worst balsa that came out of the entire boat so far. One of the surprises was that there was no separation from the transom to the bottom of the hull. So you're looking up here into the transom, and that's sky. So the moisture that was in the transom got right into the bottom of the hull as well, and destroyed the balsa probably a good 10-15 inches from the back of the transom itself. So I put it back together using some high density foam board. Just made a pattern and used some colloidal silica and a thickened epoxy to just redo this. This was easy in a sense because this is flat. One of the only places in the boat that's actually flat and straight. The other thing we got done was got all the new hatches installed on the boat, the two small ones and the large one up forward, and reworked all of the holes and drilled and filled them with colloidal silica, and then through bolted quite a bit of it as well. So those hatches are there to stay, and hopefully they will never leak again. That's my plan. I don't want to be dealing with hatches in the future. We also got the new port lights installed, and also installed the new companionway hatch. Here you're looking at some of the bow section where I've cut out some of the decayed balsa, or punky balsa is what it really was. And I just trace around sections of the divinacell and cut the square out of the balsa rather than do anything too amazing. Here you can see the divinacell that's been installed into those kinds of cuts. It's just simple to do, and make sure you just get a good solid surface. Here, what you're looking at is me trying to dry this section under the battery boxes, and for whatever reason this just refused to dry out, and here I'm using the high vacuum and lots of heat, and just would not dry. Okay, this morning we're working on the very last section that we have dried, and this particular bit that's been carved out after multiple attempts refused to dry out, and that's even after applying significant amounts of heat and high vacuum as well, and for whatever reason it just would not cooperate. But one thing I wanted to show, and I think this camera can do this, is get an idea what the inner skin looks like and how thin it is. So we've got chop strand mat, and up over in here that's some woven roving, but a fairly light piece of it, and it may be one, possibly two layers of chop strand. It's hard to tell the way it peels, and let's see, I'm sure this thing's focusing. What I'll do here in a bit is I'm going to grind this chop strand away very, very carefully, because I don't want to penetrate this woven roving. And like I said, you can see how thin that is. Clean all the remaining balsa up, And then I will put a layer of 10-ounce cloth in this section before I start putting some new core in here. So it got me why this wouldn't dry, because pretty much everywhere else I could dry out, but this is right under the battery boxes, and I don't know if there's something else. I haven't checked this inner skin with my moisture meter, but entirely possible that it's the source of wetness, but who knows. But if I back up here a little bit, you can see that this area on towards the stern has been all faired, and as soon as I get some core in here and fair this again, this will be the last section to get glass. We've got glass pretty much everywhere over here on the starboard side, but there's still way more to go. This is just first layers. Using a 29-ounce real heavy mat for the first layer, and this mat has one advantage. Gives me a lot of section thickness, and it stays flat, so it's a relatively smooth surface. What you're seeing there is the threads, because this is a stitched biaxial mat, and it's kind of a little bit of a challenge to work with, because the edges are hard to wet out, and so what I've been doing is not worrying about the edges, and then I grind back till I get a good solid, or till I see a good solid bond, and then this all gets glassed over again, at least with, well, two more. It'll be a 10-ounce material over that, and then I've got some lighter, I don't know if it's 4-ounce or something like that, then I'm going to do the whole hull in, so give me a good surface. Again, another layer of the 29-ounce. I don't know if the camera will pick it up, but these lovely little threads that that are the stitching, they tend to want to unravel as you're squeegeeing out the glass. It's pretty special. It gets wrapped around your hand. The next thing you know, you're pulling the whole sheet down on your head. And up in here, we're getting there. This needs a little bit more heavy material. Got 2 layers of the heavy 29-ounce in there, 1 layer of 10-ounce over that, and I'm not sure what the right answer is, because this material, being as it's an outright cloth rather than the chopped strand, is inherently stronger than the chopped strand ever was. So I suspect I'm overbuilding it, but who knows. These light spots up in here, let's see if my fingers are in the right spot here. Where'd it go? Right here. This is where threads from the cloth, when you're squeegeeing out, if they hang, it wants to pull the damn cloth off the boat, and that's a pain. So you got to squeegee those cloth or those strands out to get them to hang, or it comes right back down on your head. It's pretty fun doing overhead glass work. The deal is you wet it out on a big table, and then I've been rolling it up on PVC pipes, and you can hold the PVC pipe with most of the glass, and then you start the end that you're starting with, and the fun begins. One day here a while back, we were having fun putting some glass on the bow sections, and right in the middle of doing that, a big rainstorm came in, and did a number on me. I've got to grind that stuff back, and then I'll redo that some more. But bottom line is the boat is starting to go back together here, and it's painful doing all this overhead work, but you know, you just do it and work your way through it. One of the things that I'm doing
is I'm bringing my cloth over the center seam, and because I'm trying to both seal that up, and then basically I'll have a big lap joint over the center. So I'm trying to will overlap probably 4 or 5 inches at least. So the center section that was always solid and strong is going to be even more so when I'm done. So yeah, I got some small bits that I'll probably carve out too, but that's what we're looking at today. I'll show you the way I'm doing this with the Divinycell in the shop. So I know the basic dimensions of my area that I chopped out. So I've just taken the scrap pieces of Divinycell that I have gotten from my brother, and I just get a basic layout, and I'll put this on a piece of plywood and take it out there. And then I'll just add the pieces one at a time, and there's enough tack to the thickened epoxy that they'll stay in place while I finish positioning all of the bits, and then I'll put a film over it and then get the high volume vacuum out, and that'll just press it into place. If I have one concern on that section I'm working is that is so flippin' thin that as compared to anywhere else I've worked, it concerns me that I may change the shape in there, but I'll just have to deal with that as we start putting this back together. And my thinking at this point in time is I want to get my strength. I'll worry about fairing after I've got my structure back together, and we'll get it as fair as we can reasonably do, and we'll live with that. It's you know, this is not, it's not ideal the way the way I'm doing this, but it works, and I can live with the minor imperfections as long as I have the strength. That's the main thing. And wet balsa has very little strength, well, not little, certainly reduced strength. Okay, so now we've just, well, I should say, first I took my 60 grit sanding disc and cleaned up the bottom of the interior part of the skin. Made sure that whatever was left there was attached well to the remaining woven roving, which seems to be the absolute inner part of the skin, and have just laid on a 10-ounce cloth, and when that hardens up, that'll be seriously stiff, all by with the combination of the woven roving and the 10-ounce cloth. And next step is to lay out or not lay out, but bring out the new core and butter up that hull and the core pieces, and then get the high volume vacuum out here and have at it. So I have to decide if I want to wait for this to harden up or just go for it. It's actually better to do that buttering up while this is still setting, but kind of like to get some of those threads and whatnot out cleaned up, but not critical one way or the other. I'll have to decide here in a bit, but it's lunchtime. So that's what it looks like. Just have to be really careful with that inner skin. That stuff is that light woven roving that they used. really skinny stuff. Okay, this is my high volume, low pressure. This pump does about 25 inches of H2O. It was my early mistake. Works great though for doing this core work, using a high volume, just using a sink drain there as the port, And one of the nice things about using this high volume setup is you just tape the plastic, and you can use any plastic for this. You don't have to use the vacuum bag film, and it does what you want. I'm using a slow set epoxy filled with colloidal silica and a touch of microfibers, and the microfibers help make the filler more tacky, so you can just literally press the blocks up into it and they stay until you get ready to do your vacuum setup. And then slowly but surely with the vacuum setup, it just extrudes the epoxy out of the way, and or not out of the way, but moves it around and gives it a nice even pressure, and it works really flippin' well. So I'll leave this running for 5-6 hours probably. Temperatures are probably high 60s right now, so probably this evening after dinner I'll come out and shut this thing off and go from there. This is easy work when the pump's doing it. And on these pieces here, what I'll do is once this is all good and firm, I'll cut the existing glass and balsa back a little bit more so I can put some foam blocks that fit in there. And this whole area under my cradle, as soon as I get my fiberglass work done in the areas I'm working, I'll put the trailer pads back on and move the support back to the sides of the hull rather than on this cradle, and I'll remove the cradle so I can cut these sections out and continue the work there. But I got a long ways to go to get to that point. So this little section here will get faired. We'll finish those little bits, and then we'll start fairing and filling and having all that, and then we can start the glass work more extensively on the port side.